Eric, hello. How
Hi.
are you?
I'm doing all right. How are you?
I'm good. I'm glad to see that you're actually here in one piece.
Yeah,
you know?
it was quite the morning.
So we're coming to you from Forbidden Kingdom. Tell me about today.
All right. So I had a packed weekend with shows. So I played one in Portland, Oregon a couple days ago.
Okay.
One in Wichita, Kansas yesterday that I almost missed the flight for because of similar issues to today. And then I was like, I'm not going to miss my flight today, right? And so I wake up, get to the airport 2 hours early, and I get to the flight on time. It departs at 6. And the pilot and the co-pilot were like, all right, so we've got a delay. We're not going to know more about it until 7:30. And so hour and a half past schedule, and I have a connecting flight, so that was just not going to work. But flight departs at around 7:30. I get to the next airport where my layover was, and I just couldn't, the flight had departed by the time I got there.
Yeah.
And so I was like, this sucks. And it's like, I didn't think I was going to be able to make my set.
Yeah.
And I then looked online. My girlfriend actually helped me find another flight that was going to Orlando. I was going to be there by like 3:19. My set was at 4:20. It would have been perfect. And so I book it. That one gets delayed too. And so I get there late and I missed my set. But you covered it. Thank you so much.
Well, I appreciate you being cool with me covering it. I'm glad somebody from like the Outer Loop team was like here.
Yeah.
Because I think we're one of the only two people here from like our squad. So
I believe so, yeah.
Yeah, like Han called me and was like, he called me and I unfortunately didn't have his number saved, so I didn't know who it was. It was from California, so I was like, California, I'll answer. Maybe it's someone.
Right.
And then he was like, Ace is gonna be like late to his set. Can we do this? And I was like, oh yeah, that's fine. Like, we'll just move the podcast later. Like, he can come and sit down. Han's like, no, we have no one for his set. I was like, oh shit. And then I called Michael and I was like, I don't know who just called me, but Eric may not be making his set, so
Right.
let's figure it out. But I'm glad you got here. And it's just, it sucks, but it's like, that's just what happens sometimes.
Yeah,
There
like
are
this-
things you can't control.
Yeah, this is my first festival,
I
and so
know.
like I was really looking forward to playing the set, but I also have in the back of my mind like I don't think there could be like much of a worse situation than what happened today. So I got the bad situation over with, and I know kind of like what to expect as far as the worst.
Yes,
So.
and you're an incredibly optimistic person, and like that comes through your social media and all of that shit, which is like super fucking dope. And I love like the approach you've taken, not only with your music. I mean, oh my god, I remember listening to you. I discovered you like 4 years ago when like no one was like no one knew who the fuck you were.
Right.
You were on Rushdown, and when you were on Rushdown with Harvey, I was like, okay, who is this? And then all of a sudden, when I started talking to Outer Loop, they were like, oh yeah, well we like represent Chime and Ace, and I was like, no fucking way. I was like, but it's very cool to see this movement that's just started, and I think a lot of it is due to COVID and people having to have more listenable music.
Yeah,
you know,
for sure.
I don't think they're, listening to like these atonal like rhythm bangers like flipping pancakes in the morning,
Right.
And I feel like the kind of music that you have kind of helped push the pioneer front like forward with Harvey is just the next evolution of bass music. That's how I feel. I mean, I don't know how you feel.
I mean, it's fun stuff. Like, it's something I've been producing for around 9 years at this point, right?
Yeah.
And I've always had this vision in my mind of like combining really heavy stuff with melodic stuff in a way that made sense.
Yes.
Like, I've heard plenty of songs where there's like a melodic section, a heavy section, or like melodic elements, heavy elements. And I wanted to be the person to like make it to where it's all one thing.
Yeah.
It's like the melody meets like the heaviness. It's like one combined element. And so that's
Yeah.
what I've been trying to do.
And it's like so many layers, like when you look into like when you look into an average project of yours, just because I'm someone who I would love to just pick your brain over and over again.
Yeah.
Where do you normally start?
It's gonna be different for every song.
Okay.
Some of them start from just concepts or inspirations in my head.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I want to make a song that embodies this feeling or like this stage of life I'm in, and I'll do that. Or like, maybe there's like, I'm a Christian, and that's a really big part of what I do musically. Yeah. And so like maybe there's something in the Bible that's really inspired me, and I want to like make a song embodying that concept.
Yeah.
The whole Reset Environment EP that released on Disciple was kind of about the book of Revelation. Just the concept of there being like a new heaven and a new earth, and kind of like putting that into musical form and like what that might look like. So
You painted a pretty good picture of that, and it's so cool for like your evolution of kind of just starting via independent releases and like Rushdown, and then like now you're on Disciple and Monstercat and all of this stuff. So again, you've put the work in. So it's like it's a long-term vision, but it has to feel good that you really have this sound that you have helped curate where you in like, it is in that like color based realm, but there's now like these subgenres underneath the color base that
Yeah.
everyone has their place to shine. And I think of like you and Skybreak and Dynamic and all of them. And it's cool, and it seems like the community you guys have built is like so overly supportive of each other just to keep
Oh,
pushing
yeah.
each other forward.
Yeah, for sure. In Rushdown, we have a Facebook Messenger group that people stay active literally daily on. Like, I have not been in another label where people are like this supportive of each other
Absolutely
and like
not.
talk all the time. Like, it's been really cool to be a part of. And I haven't released on Rushdown in like a year or two at this point, at least. But I still like keep up to date with everyone's work and stuff. It's really cool to have like a community
Absolutely.
around that.
Yeah, and I feel like that's so important, not only for like growth, but this can get a little mentally taxing. Like, this is your first time really you really had that moment where I felt like you kind of just came into your own over COVID, which is very rare considering the circumstances of everything going on, because we
Right.
do really operate a lot around touring. And this is your first time really, right, like nationally touring kind of on the road.
Yeah, it's been very interesting. I had played scattered shows before COVID, and then signed with UTA.
Yeah.
Jake Bernstein and Steve Gordon are my booking agents. They're awesome.
Yep.
But yeah, I did not expect to like start touring during a global pandemic. It was weird at first, of course, because drive-ins, they're fun, but they feel very different from like club shows because there's so much distance. But I did a few of those over COVID, and then as things have started opening up, now I'm getting a taste for what actual like touring life looks like. And it's real fun, but it's more exhausting than people might think. Like, this was supposed to be my first like 3 show in a row weekend if I would have like made my set today.
Yeah.
But like even like 2 in a row is just like, you're done with the first one, got to wake up early for the next one after staying up super late playing a set. It's just like, it can get taxing for sure.
It's mentally tasking, it's physically tasking. And I know like you are a big gym head yourself, so
Yeah.
like you love going to the gym. So it's so like we do that as well. It's so crazy, like having a sleep schedule and having your diet and having your gym routine, and then being like, oh, okay, you've got 3 shows in a row. Your set time is at 1:30. It ends at 3. You got to be at the airport at 5:45.
Yep.
And then when you get there, you can't check into your hotel until 4. And it's a
It's-
lot, you know?
Yeah, it's a lot. And I feel like if I didn't like, keeping up with my health is super important. Like, I don't always do a good job of it because I'm a human.
Yeah.
But like, I know that if I were not like at least trying to make a conscious effort about what I'm eating, amount of sleep I'm getting, like working out, I would be like dead. Like,
Yeah.
touring is very taxing, and I think having a really good routine that keeps you going is really important.
I don't know how some people do it where they, you know what I'm saying? I'm just
Yeah.
like, holy fuck, man. Like, I just can't, like, I don't know how they do it. And I commend them, but I'm very much so, I need to have my routine. I need to make sure I'm getting out of the studio into the gym, because it all feeds back into like our mental capacity of working and
Oh, yeah.
continuing to go forward. And I know like during COVID, you started being an instructor for Fire Society.
Yes.
And you're still doing stuff with them, right?
Yes.
So how's that experience been? Was it the first time you were like teaching feedback? Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it was really interesting. I was around the time where I was looking to figure out how to monetize my music production, basically, because I was at the point where streams weren't earning that much and shows weren't happening because COVID. And I was at the point in my life where I just graduated from the University of Texas at Dallas with a computer science degree. And at the time, I was like, okay, this is the point where I really need to decide whether or not I go hard for music or for computer science stuff. Because throughout my college experience, I had been kind of like coasting by and like making music my main thing. And so I was like, okay, I don't know what to do. And I prayed a lot about it, talked to my girlfriend a lot about it. And then the Fire guys reached out and were like, hey, we like your stuff. Would you like to be an instructor? And I was like, yes. And so I've been doing that ever since. Yeah. and
Yeah.
that's been a really good avenue for learning. I think giving music feedback really helps you to go back to your own productions and figure out how to improve them. And so that's been a really good blessing.
Just learn in general, because it's like when you get asked certain questions like about compression or saturation or mixing, it makes you reflect, and then like the gears start turning in your head like, oh shit, like how can I kind of dumb this down to explain it to someone who has no idea
Yeah.
about it? And that makes you better yourself when you go back, even if it's just like basic things. And that's why I feel like whether it's teaching or like mentorship or like even doing YouTube videos, like it's important to do something like that long term, because it really helps you kind of connect with like your roots as an artist and like
Oh, yeah.
continue to grow. And for someone who has like such a signature sound now that you've like really developed, what are some things that I guess you would advise to people who are now trying to get into the scene as a producer, and you see it with the Fire Society.
Yeah.
Everyone wants to do it, even through COVID, where I'm like, why the fuck would you want to do this?
Yeah.
They still want to do it, and it's because of the love of music, and it's amazing to have such a cool support system. But I'm sure you see it over and over again, where it's like people are just they're either following trends or they're not understanding how to make their own sound.
Yeah.
And do you think that just comes with time, or do you think it's like, how did you approach kind of building the avenue in which you came down?
That's a good question. I think it's a combination of it just happening naturally over time and being intentional about it. I had a moment where I sat down in like 2017, 2018, and kind of wrote down all of my favorite kind of musical inspirations and all of my favorite elements in music, and then tried to like make a song using all of those. And like kind of doing that really helped shape my mind around like where I want to go as an artist, like with my sound and stuff like that. And so doing exercises like that, I think is really good for finding out just in general what you like and where you want to go. Because I think I even get stuck in this now. I think it's really easy to coast by and try to just do what the trends are. And of course, like as someone that does this full time, you have to find a balance, because you can't just like do super weird stuff or else no one's gonna get it.
Yeah.
But like, it's about kind of finding a balance between what's trending right now and what you can add to the table that other people aren't, that's unique to you. And so I would advise just like, it's good to kind of take trends as a way to learn how to create music, but there has to be a step where you kind of make it your own. You add your own inspirations that you've heard, like growing up as a kid, things you like that aren't in the genre you make, and stuff like that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I feel like just like broadening spectrums. I was just talking to a company, and he was talking about working with Teddy Killers on the D&B track that they did for Monstercat. And he was just like, it was so amazing working with someone who wasn't like, their primary focus was dubstep, because you learn so much and they bring so much to the table.
Yeah.
And just like pushing yourself to do more of that. Have you found yourself doing that through quarantine, where you're not writing, you know, what you normally release? You're working on some other shit, or is it?
It's been mostly the same kind of dubstep, but I have written a few tracks that have been kind of outside of my genre, so to speak, I guess. I've been really into hard wave lately. It's a genre that kind of combines trance elements and like trap.
Yeah.
And like hardstyle. It's a really cool combination.
That's coming up though. It is. Yep.
It's real fun. Guys like Dead Crow, Skeller.
I was about to say Dead Crow. Yep.
Yeah. Dead Crow stuff is awesome. I play him in all my sets.
Whenever I think about him, I think about like video games almost, you know, and it's just kind of like going by, and it's definitely a cool subgenre that we're starting to see evolve, and I just feel like the possibilities are endless, and I can't imagine where we're gonna sit in music terms like 10 years down the road.
Oh yeah.
From like what's existing now, because you already start seeing things like phasing out, and I just feel like, I know everybody like hates the term intelligent dance music, but like I feel like that's what you produce, where it's like it makes your mind like not only like stimulated, but it like it's just, you have to have that like ear and like that love for like melodic music. It's almost like pop dubstep. I know that sounds like weird.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But it's a really cool thing that I'm glad it started to evolve in COVID, with all the clubs shutting down and everything, because I feel like we're gonna get this whole new wave of people like yourself that are continuing to push this forward, and I could see like takeovers at Lost Lands that are all like future rhythm, all of that kind of stuff, which is really cool. Are there any artists that I know you put on like a lot of underground artists and stuff all the time. Are there any artists that you like particularly have your eye on right now that you're like supporting, all that stuff?
Yeah. I think one of the big ones that not many people know about is Space Yeti.
Okay.
He's got a lot of really good stuff. Some of his more recent unreleased stuff kind of combines the melodic with the heavy, kind of like I'm doing.
Yeah.
But I play out his stuff in all my sets as well. I'm trying to think of some more. Skybreak.
I was about to say Skybreak.
Like,
he's on the rise though.
Yeah.
He sends me his folder sometimes. I'm like, bro, like, what is he, 18? He's 18? Yeah. No, he has a very bright future ahead of him. But it's like, I look at people like him and like Omar and like more Kismet and stuff, and it's like, your headspace is just in such a different area when you're like still in high school, you know? Like, and it's like, I wish I would have fucking picked up a computer when I was that young, but everybody's journey is so different, and I think that's what like special about this. So I know like you post about, you know, Christianity and your religion like all the time.
Yeah.
This scene gets a little weird. Have you had trouble with I guess, pushing this message forward, or have you felt kind of odd in certain situations because of your message with Christianity? And if it's like an uncomfortable question, you
No,
totally
that's
don't
totally
have to
fine.
answer it.
That's a legitimate question. Like, for the most part, no, that hasn't really been an issue. I think, especially in the EDM scene, people are really receptive to a lot of different ideas. And if it was something where more of like everyone thought a certain way, and then like I was the odd one out, that might have been weird. But it's like a lot of people in the scene are open, and so me talking about my faith hasn't ever really been weird. The only time I can remember, I didn't even experience it myself. My manager caught it. Is I made a post about Easter and like mentioning that it was like to celebrate Jesus' death and resurrection, and apparently someone had like quote tweeted it and said I was in like a cult or whatever, and I was like,
Shit.
okay. I didn't know about this until my manager told me,
Yeah.
because like I don't have the Twitter app, I don't use it often, and so like I use a third-party app to tweet just because I don't like the platform.
You told me that. So
Yeah.
well, I'm glad to hear that. And that's how I figured it would be, but I don't know too many people who are like outward with it, where like when I was growing up, I was in a Christian rock band, and like I did the whole like youth group and all of that shit. So
Yeah.
I understand the back end of it, and it was a curious question in the back of my mind if you had ever had like problems with it. But that's
Yeah.
good to hear. I mean, everybody's so weird here, so like everybody it's like kind of like a misfit box kind of.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
so it's cool to hear that it's been like widely received and all of that stuff. And you'll always have like the stupid outliers that are just whatever, but they're not relevant.
Yeah.
And so with Twitter, going to social media, I know you're very particular in kind of keeping that energy restricted towards where you're spending your social media time,
Yeah.
what you're spending on, your music, your gym life. How do you balance it? And do you use like third-party apps for everything?
Not everything. I have the Instagram app, I have the Facebook app. I use those to post. I mean, I'm a human. I do get stuck on those apps way too long sometimes,
Yeah.
like just scrolling through Instagram Reels, just
Yeah.
doing nothing. But with Twitter in particular, I found it to be a really like, I think it's a platform that can breed a lot of negativity really fast. And so I, probably like close to a year ago at this point, got rid of the app, and I got a third-party app called Buffer that lets you like schedule tweets or like post tweets from your account. And so I don't really look at my feed or my notifications. Sorry if you've like tweeted me before, but like
Yeah.
or messaged me. But I'll go on my computer sometimes to check messages, notifications, stuff like that. But I'll use the Buffer app to tweet about things that are like updates or like.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
It's just part of the job. It's like you got to do it at some point, you know.
I forget to do it all the time. Like my girlfriend has to remind me to like post about important events and like update my story and stuff like that, because I'll just like be doing my daily activities and forget that I have a social media presence.
It's a whole other world. It's like a second world.
It is.
And it's like so many people just get almost more invested in the second world than the world we're living in. And
Yeah.
and especially during COVID, I felt like we were at this point where it was just so in Twitter and so in social media that it was like people didn't realize that it wasn't reality.
Mhm.
And so I'm glad that this is existing now, because I think a lot of that negativity is lifted. And the more people can go outside and do things and X, Y, and Z, it's gonna get better.
Yeah.
But tell me about things you're excited for. Anything on the rise that you can tease for listeners?
Okay. I've got a few upcoming releases with a label that I have worked with in the past, but have not worked with much. I'll just say that much. I can't say much about the releases, of course.
Yeah.
But I've got that coming up. Lots of shows lined up that I'm really excited about. A little nervous about how much mental energy it's going to take to like do all of them every weekend, but it's going to be fun for sure.
Yeah.
Some of which I can't announce yet, but like a few festivals coming up and stuff like that. It'll be fun. What else is there? I've been working on a lot of music that hasn't really been lined up for release yet, but I'm really excited about the direction it's going in.
Yeah.
I think I'm really starting to hit like a new stride with, of course, like I've had the Melodic Riddim thing going for a while, but there was a point where I kind of got bored with it.
Yeah.
And like I didn't want to abandon it, but I also didn't want to like keep doing the same thing, because you get stuck in a rut sometimes. That's where I was a few months ago.
Okay.
And so I've been adding new inspirations in from other genres like hard wave to my stuff, and incorporating that in the Melodic Riddim sound, and that's been really fun.
Well, that's how
So,
you evolve, you know?
Yeah.
And I feel like the evolution as you as an artist is going to be a very cool sight to see, because as long as you just keep building, it's going to be awesome. And it's like you're paving the path for all of these people, where I just remember Harvey, like a long time ago, he'd just be like, fuck, man, like no one's giving attention to this subgenre. No one,
Yeah.
People just want to hear bangers, da-da-da. And I feel like now more than ever, people just enjoy letting a song breathe. And that's the point of the music that you make. It's like, I feel like the music that you make are like records. They're not just like tracks. They're not like bangers. And
Yeah.
it's like, you know, and it's like they are bangers, don't get me wrong. Like they do go off on a sound system, but at the same time, like I'm fully invested as a listener from beginning to end, and I feel like that's like a goal that every artist should have, you know, moving forward.
Yeah, it's been interesting for sure. Like, one of the things that I've had to think through a lot trying to make this my career is finding a balance between making things that work live, because like I play live shows, that's like part of the experience, and making stuff that feels kind of like creatively fulfilling and has depth to it. And so sometimes it can be kind of hard to have music that goes hard on the sound system, but also has more to it than just like quarter notes and thick drums, you know?
Yes.
But it's been fun finding that balance, actually. I think it's a fun challenge to find something that's like creatively stimulating, and like
goes off.
Yeah, and goes off, and so it's fun.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I do really appreciate you coming on, Eric.
Thanks for
I'm really
having
glad
me.
you actually got here safely, and I know, especially with Jake and Steven, you're going to be all over this fall. So I'm very happy for you, and I'm excited for your new releases, and you're just gonna keep pumping it out.
Thank you.
So yeah, everyone, Ace Aura, check out his music if you haven't already. Coming to you from Forbidden Kingdom. Have a good one.
Peace out.